Hi, friends. Let me tell you about how I created less financial problems in my life. It came down to a word. It's my favorite word. It's been my favorite word for decades. And while value system it might change from here to there, it doesn't matter. I love this word and I use it in my coaching all the time. My favorite word is anticipation. Anticipation. It's to anticipate something, right? Now, if you are somebody who is whimsical or spontaneous and you love that adrenaline of not having plans and all that, this might not be for you. And you probably have a completely different word that you love. But I'm a planner. I like to know what's going on. I like to cross my T's and dot my I's and prepare for anything to a fault, actually. I'm one of those super planners, which one makes me a good numbers person, makes me a good financial coach at times. But I can also relate to people who are whimsical and are spontaneous and don't like to be locked down and have their plans. Because in my personal social life, I don't like plans. I don't want to have everything scheduled out. If you look at my calendar, I have all kinds of tasks and things on there, but it's completely flexible where I can move things all the time. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. But the point I'm trying to make here is anticipation. I want to anticipate everything that I can so that I can prepare for it. And again, that can actually come back and bite me. But when it comes to money, this is how I created less money and financial problems in my life. Here, I'll give you a perfect example. I came up with what we call anticipation funds. This is money that is put aside or set aside regularly, systematically, so that it can pay for the things that I need it for in the future. So it's basically future expenses, right? Because we all know, like, you have your budget where you have your bills, your monthly bills, whether it's rent or your mortgage, you have your car payments, you have your insurance, you have your groceries and your clothing and things like that are like, hey, here's what I spend money on in general in a month. And a lot of times we call that, like, here's my budget basics, right? The four walls, some people call it, right? These are the things that you need to take care of your life so that you can live and they're not going to shut off your water, your electricity, right? You need to pay your bills, right? Your commitments. But then there's discretionary spending, which a lot of people call that. And that's like this extra stuff that once you have all your bills paid, then you have all this extra stuff. And most people end up spending that spontaneously or whimsically, or they plan some of it and some of it is not planned, and I have enough money to go out here and don't have enough money to get that thing, so I'm going to save up for that for the next month, right? I'm just creating a system for that. Anticipation funds. So anything that's not monthly, that's a future expense, I create a line item called X, whatever it's called, right? Your Christmas is a great example. Gifts is a great example. Your life insurance that's due every year is a great example. Your insurance, your other insurances that are quarterly or annually, your garbage, your water, those types of utilities, even though they are necessities, could fall into the anticipation accounts because they are quarterly bills, something like that. So in order to make sure that I had enough money for these things, I had to systematically put together some kind of process in order to make sure that those bills were paid in the future. Instead of I accidentally paid or stole money from my bills and all these things because I had it in my account and I decided I needed a new TV, so I went and I bought a new TV, and now, oops, the next month my bill was due, my annual bill for my life insurance, say, and I didn't have enough money. And then what happens? Stress, right? All of this stuff happens because we are not anticipating all of the things that are coming in the future. Because if we don't anticipate those things, they come up and they bite you, right? Now, some things we know are going to come up, but why aren't we saving for it? Most people don't save for the things that we even know are coming. Now, some things we have no clue. That's why we have an emergency fund, right? That's the stuff that comes out of left field, right? I had no clue that this was going to happen, right? I fell, I broke my arm, and I had to go to the emergency room, and maybe that was covered, maybe it wasn't, but that's not the emergency. The emergency is when you can't go to work and you can't get paid and you are without income for a month because you're recovering from that injury. That's the real emergency, not the emergency room visit, unless you're not covered and you have to pay out of pocket for that. That would also be included in the emergency. But here's the biggest thing that I think, if you stopped to breathe and think about this, you would be able to tell with me that you could anticipate this thing, that most people don't. And they think it's an emergency, but it's not an emergency. Car breakdowns, car repairs. Now, you can't sit there and tell me cars never break down. You know this, I know this, everybody knows this. If you have a vehicle and you drive that vehicle over a certain period of months, weeks, months, years, etc., eventually something happens to the car. I don't know a single person that is driving that has not had some kind of car issue ever, right? Somebody's going to have something, right? You need to have some kind of plan, some kind of system to save up for these car repairs. But most people think, oh gosh, my transmission went out, so it's an emergency. So they dip into their emergency fund, which is fine, that's okay. But or a fan belt, or something else happens, right? Brake pads, even small things like tires getting nails or screws in them on the highway, and then they get flat and you have to gotta get a new tire. Most people aren't planning for that, so then it becomes an emergency and they have to dip into their emergency fund. I'll tell you, I rarely touch my emergency fund because I have created a systematic plan for me to have this anticipation account, these funds available for those things that most people would say it's an emergency, but I don't say it's an emergency because I can anticipate that cars break down in this example. So I know my car's breaking down. In fact, I've got an older car, so it's going to break down even more probably than your car. If you've got a car that's newer than 14 years old, my car's 14 years old. I systematically save money for maintenance and repairs. That's anticipating that cars break down, which we know is a fact. Cars break down. They need maintenance. They need repairs. Now, it stinks. I hate it when I have to take my car in because something happened to it. I don't like paying the money for it. But instead of dipping into my emergency fund, I've got an anticipation fund for that. I have a line item called car repairs, and I put money every month. Every month, put car repair money in there so that when the car breaks down, not if, but when, I have the money sitting there. And even though I don't like it, I pay that money because I have that, because I know that cars break down. And that's the anticipation part of it. So if I can anticipate as much of those little things as possible, then I know I can pay for it and it doesn't blow up my budget, or I have to take money out of my emergency fund. It's safe. Emergency fund for truly emergencies that I can't see coming. But anticipation accounts, anticipation funds is what I can see coming. I just don't know when. I don't know when that's happening, although some of them I do. Obviously, annual bills, quarterly bills, things like that. You know when they're coming, so you have to save for those, right? If you celebrate Christmas, Christmas comes in December. I need to save systematically for that throughout the year so that when October, November, December hits, I have the money sitting there ready to spend for that holiday. But if I don't have that, then guess what happens? I'm going to spend money on that anyway. It comes out of my current month budget, blows up the budget, or I steal money from other accounts, other savings, emergencies, right? All these other things. And then I wonder why I can't get ahead in life. That's what we constantly do. Is this yo-yo piece because people aren't anticipating their money. They aren't anticipating their savings. They aren't anticipating their spending. They aren't anticipating their investing. All of these types of things hold us back from reaching financial freedom, reaching our ideal life. So, I want you to do something. Create a list of all the things you think are future spending items. Your anticipation account. Now, I have other videos on anticipation funds. You can go and search for those. But create a list, all the things that you're in your budget that you think these are not every single month bills. These are future spending items, right? For me, Christmas, gifts, auto repairs, vacation, new laptop, phone upgrade, maintenance on the house, all these other things. My life insurance is due every year. My auto insurance is due every year. Like, these are things that are not monthly. Anything that's non-monthly, you set aside in another account so that you can have that money in the future when it's ready for you. So anticipate, even if you're whimsical, even if you're spontaneous, right? You have to have some kind of planning. Otherwise, you'll never get ahead. You just won't, because you can't plan quickly enough for that particular month. When something happens, you constantly are dipping into your emergency fund, if you even have an emergency fund. Or if you don't, you go into debt. And you put something on a credit card. You put something on a credit card. You put something on a credit card, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's how you end up to $20, $30, $50, $80,000 in credit card debt. And you'll never get out because you're not anticipating the future spending. So, anticipation. That's my favorite word. Doesn't have to be your favorite word. That's okay. I like anticipating, because when I anticipate what's going to happen in the future, of things that I know, I can plan for it. And when I can plan for it, it reduces the amount of mistakes that I make. It reduces the amount of financial problems that I have. It reduces that stress that constantly bogs us all down with our finances. So if you can anticipate some of those things, you can plan for them, and then you can reduce your stress, reduce your financial problems, and that won't make everything go away. But the more that I can anticipate, the more I can plan for. All right, so my favorite word, anticipation. I love it. I'm a planner. I like to know what's going on. I like to plan for it and take care of it so that I can go and make sure the monies over here are available for my ideal life. All right, what is your favorite word? Put it in the comments below. Check it out. I'd love to interact with you and discuss what your favorite word is and why, and especially if it relates to finance, money, career, income, all that stuff. All right, thanks, friend. We'll see you in another video.